Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland. And this week we're continuing our train of talking about Coen Brothers films, and last week we talked about arguably their greatest film, No Country for Old Men, and now we have something completely different, and it's Burn After Reading. And I'm joined this week by Aaron, and I'm going to let Aaron introduce himself a little bit, his first time on Welcome to the Wasteland.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. We've been recording a lot recently, and I'm here for it, because we did Robert's podcast on the Oscars, and we did the Oscars a year in review on SiftPop Writers Room, and we did a TV catch up on SiftPop Writers Room. It's been a lot of fun, and Cherry and Billie Eilish reviews.
Got to figure out what's coming out on Apple TV Plus next.
I think it's mostly series for a while, but
I started
Ted Lasso season 2.
That, and I'm really excited about Mythic Quest coming out this week too. Yeah. I enjoyed that a lot. I watched Mosquito Coast this week, and I'm like,
I need to use my Apple TV Plus more. I decided it's only $5, so I can keep it, but I haven't watched anything since Ted Lasso.
That's fair. Well, what a series to actually watch on Apple TV Plus, because it's an amazing gem. Yep. But this week, starting off with our coming attractions, there's a few films coming out, like a Billy Crystal directed film is coming out this week. But honestly, by far the biggest thing coming out the week, the Friday, May 7th, is Wrath of Man, which is Guy Ritchie's new film, which after The Gentleman, I know I'm super excited about it because I felt like that was a return to form to him doing his street level gangster British movies, which I feel like he does best. But so, Aaron, why are you excited about Wrath of Man?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of brought the aspect of this is kind of Guy Ritchie returning to street level British wannabes in a way. You didn't really say wannabes, but Snatch is about a bunch of wannabes, and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels is about a bunch of wannabes, and Rock and Roll is kind of about some wannabes and kind of some R's,
Yeah.
I don't think this is going to have that same narrative structure, but like I have Lock, Stock, and I have Snatch, and I have Rock and Roll, and I have The Gentleman. I'm totally open to more, but I think that not every movie by Guy Ritchie needs to be that gimmick. I like him returning to that setting. I like him kind of like we were talking about just before we were recording, is like Guy Ritchie, even though he's known for Snatch and Lock, Stock, like he's had a bit of a rough patch because he got big and then he did the Sherlock Holmes movie, which are okay at best, and he did Aladdin, which is totally fine, but nothing spectacular. And then he did The Gentleman, which is really good. So I feel like he's, I don't know, like getting back into his groove. And he had that King Arthur movie somewhere in the middle of there.
Yeah. I enjoyed that way more than I ever thought I would, but I would not be like, oh my God, I need to watch King Arthur Legend of the Sword. And nor would I have greenlit $170 million King Arthur movie in like 2017 or whenever the hell that movie came out.
And like, look, I love Charlie Hunnam. I really love him in Sons of Anarchy, and he's definitely one of the best parts of The Gentleman. But I am not backing $170 million Charlie Hunnam King Arthur movie.
Which is interesting because, like, I've never watched Sons of Anarchy. So, like, a lot of my experience with Charlie Hunnam was them trying to force him as a lead in Pacific Rim. And I'm just like,
oh, I love Pacific Rim.
Like, he was the least interesting part of that movie for me. But once I saw Lost City of Zed and him, and then I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah.
And then The Gentleman, like, he's like, everybody's great in The Gentleman. Like, from Matthew McConaughey to Charlie Hunnam to, oh my God, Hugh Grant as Fletcher, and Colin Farrell as Coach. It's like, you got to make it sharp. You got to cut me with it. And I'm just like, looking at the cast for Wrath of Man, I'm like, I don't know if this is going to be as like sharply funny kind of film or not, but like, it's cool seeing Jason Statham back in a Guy Ritchie movie.
Yeah.
Instead of fighting like giant prehistoric sharks kind of thing.
Don't you bad talk the Meg. I kind of like that one.
Not gonna lie, I like that movie more than I thought I was gonna do either. And like, he was dead serious.
Yeah.
And it worked so well though.
Well, and it's, gosh, I feel like you're right. I don't think this is gonna have that humor. I don't think this is gonna be necessarily even anything resembling. The thing that this is probably gonna resemble the most is the Sherlock Holmes stuff. This isn't gonna be a period piece, but at least as far as I know. But I don't know. You kind of get like I get like a mystery, probably more action than mystery, but like action mystery, thriller vibe to this, and seems odd that Sherlock Holmes would be the closest thing to the new Guy Ritchie Jason Statham movie. But that's here we are. And look, I'm a Jason Statham fan. I grew up like right about the time I was in middle school was right about the time that he was the coolest guy ever, like right after like Transporter and Transporter 2 and the Expendables, and that was right about the time I saw Snatch.
Like, Lee Christmas is great.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I like him.
Him and Sylvester Stallone have a lot of chemistry, and so this might be a controversial thing for me to say, but I'm going to say it with how big Fast and Furious movies are at this point. I've never been a fan, so I've never really like watched all the Fast and Furious movies. Like, the only two that I had seen before I went to the theater to go see Fate of the Furious was Too Fast, Too Furious and Tokyo Drift. So I had just started reviewing everything, so I'm like, I'm not going to miss out on watching Fate of the Furious. And as a not fan, looking in, the two best parts of that movie for me were The Rock and Jason Statham. So when they announced Hobbs and Shaw, I'm like, good. Go watch this.
Well, and you got to miss the whole part where he was supposed to be this ruthless, relentless killer that immediately we're supposed to forgive and welcome.
I missed that part, so I did. So.
Yeah. The movie wants you to forget that really quick,
real easy too. Yeah. But like, this has Jason Statham, Josh Hartnett. Is
he an actor that probably deserves better?
I think so. I think they tried to make him pigeonholed into that, like, the Taylor Kish had the same exact thing. It's like, you're handsome. Let's make you this leading man guy. And like, the most interesting thing I've seen with Josh Hartnett is Penny Dreadful. So like, I thought that's interesting. You have people like Jeffrey Donovan in this, Scott Eastwood, which like, it's like, now if Clint Eastwood was in this, that would get my attention.
I would feel the same. I'm not interested in Clint Eastwood at this point in his acting career, or directing career for that matter.
Well, I guess you're not too excited about Cry Macho then, as he's 90 years old, still directing and starring in movies.
Look, as somebody that doesn't really like old westerns, I have no attachment to Eastwood.
But and then Andy Garcia and Holt McCallany, who's from, like, I really like from Mindhunters. So bring that show back, Netflix.
They're talking about it.
I did notice that. So I don't know. I'm pretty interested in this, especially in a week where it's like there's not a whole lot coming out anyway. Like, this is definitely something that I'm hoping that I'm thrilled and have some fun. So
I'm not sure when I'm going to see this. I would not surprise myself if I caught myself in a theater this weekend to go see it. Especially my wife was off this weekend, so she works next weekend. So like, what else am I going to do on a Saturday morning? Why not spend $5 to go see a new Guy Ritchie Jason Statham movie? I'm fully vaccinated now, so
it's starting to get to that point where you're thinking about, like, I'm thinking like A Quiet Place Part 2 might be my first trip back to the theater at the end of this month.
I went back so I did go see Tenet because I went to the early access on Monday. And so who goes on a Monday night? It was literally the only theater open. And I liked them enforcing their protocols. So I did that, and then reluctantly was dragged to Wonder Woman 1984. Because I was like, I pay for HBO Max. Let's just watch this terrible movie at home. And they're like, oh, we're already going to be at the theater, so just come to the theater. It's like,
and for free,
$15. to watch.
It's
So, and then I did see Godzilla versus Kong in IMAX, and I went and saw Nobody. So like I've already broken that going back to theaters, but also just theaters have been I feel like handling things well here, and I live in Iowa. There's like 10 people in the whole state, so.
I'm in the most densely populated state in the country, in New Jersey, so that's interesting. But also, felt very blessed and lucky to have all these screeners and also 2 drive-ins that I've been able to prolong this.
Yeah.
So,
at the very least, if I'm not going to a theater this week, I'm going to one next week. If not to see Wrath of Man, to see Spiral. But I could very easily see myself catching Wrath of Man like Friday morning, Saturday morning.
Why not?
Yeah.
So I'll be interested to see how this one turns out. But now shifting gears into our feature of the week. So I guess would be an interesting thing to bring this up too is when you first came to Burn After Reading. So when was the first time you watched Burn After Reading?
Look, I'm going to tell you right now, I love this movie more than I should. I love this movie more than you think I should. And here's why. My very first experience with the Coen Brothers movie was the very first Blu-ray that I ever watched was No Country for Old Men.
Mm-hmm.
Because I picked up a couple Blu-rays. I started collecting some Blu-rays, and so 2 movies that I sold not too long later because I was at a Blockbuster that was closing, and I was like, look, I'm gonna get a Blu-ray player at some point, so I might as well buy them. I picked up American Reunion and Sherlock Holmes: The Game of Shadows. So there's your guy Richie plug again, and I think American Reunion's fine, but if you like that franchise, but
I saw it in theaters.
Yeah, me too. I enjoyed it in theaters. I don't think I've seen it since, but yeah, I wound up getting a Blu-ray player that Christmas, and for Black Friday, I was picking up some Blu-rays. One of those was No Country for Old Men because I'd heard some amazing things about it, and I was just so excited. I think the first movie I actually watched was on an app on my Blu-ray player. I think I watched Christmas Vacation for the first time. First Blu-ray I ever popped was No Country for Old Men, which, by the way, is a terrible Blu-ray because the audio quality is you have to turn it up to like 1,000,000. So, but anyway, No Country for Old Men was last week. The very next Coen Brothers movie I saw, I think it was some space. I think is Burn After Reading. I'm pretty sure I saw Fargo and Hail Caesar and Oh Brother Where Art Thou and the Ballad of Buster Scruggs. I'm pretty sure I've seen all the other Coen Brothers movies I've seen after. So this is my first experience to a true Coen Brothers movie because No Country for Old Men is very different.
That is very true. Yet every time I watch it, I laugh at that movie more and more every time.
No Country for Old Men?
Yeah, there's some great dark comedy in that movie. Like Tommy Lee Jones is sassy as hell in that movie. And honestly, some of even just the looks that Sugar gives people at certain points in the movie are legitimately funny. But yeah, No Country for Old Men's a Cormac McCarthy novel. It's dark. Like, it's dark. But yeah, Burn After Reading is very much an interesting mix of espionage and just slapstick screwball comedy.
Mm-hmm.
And which was interesting because this is actually my first Coen Brothers film I ever watched.
Oh, wow. So we're both kind of there.
Yeah. So I started in college in 2010 at Rider University, and I was a very shy kid. I probably said 10 sentences a day in high school. And I was walking around the awareness fair where they had all the clubs and organizations. And there was Rider University Alternative Films Club. And they showed independent, classic, and foreign films. And which I became to know very well because I ran the club for 3 years. And I'm a 2-time movie trivia night champion. So.
Yeah, you are. I keep on trying to get people to go with me, but all my movie friends live in other states.
Gotta find some kind of virtual thing. But the first movie they had was Burn After Reading. And usually they did some bigger movies at the beginning and had pizza So there's like 28 people in this room, this classroom watching this. And I'm like, this was great.
Yeah.
Who made this? And it was so funny because my neighbor across the hall, James Parrish, I became friends with, and he was a huge Coen Brothers fan. And I told him that I would just watch Burn After Reading, and he told me, you need to go buy The Big Lebowski, and you're going to watch it with me. And that was my second Coen Brothers film. So, like, Burn After Reading was my first taste, and they're my favorite filmmakers. So this was a really special experience, and I love watching this movie. I laugh so much every time I watch this movie.
Yeah.
Because,
well, no, go ahead.
Go ahead.
There's so many moving parts to this movie that it's easy to forget about massive chunks of the plot. And at a brisk 96 minutes, including credits, there is no beating around the bush. Every single scene is important. Every single scene is paced really well. It's just kind of like go 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 go. It's just a little box of fun. Also, I remember this is probably the movie that I had the most like exposure to before seeing it, because like I remember seeing the trailers. This was 2008. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I remember seeing the trailers because I was in middle school at the time and watching a lot of, like Adult Swim and whatnot, Comedy Central, right? And I remember like seeing the trailers and being like, look, this looks like it's probably not going to be a good movie, because the TV spots were, I remember just being terrible for this movie, because they get the money shot of that trailer is Brad Pitt going,
yeah,
which is like fine. But like, I was just like, oh, so that's what we're getting. We're trying to lure in a bunch of people who have a crush on Brad Pitt. And my sister happened to be one of those people that like, not Brad Pitt, but she's like one of those people that she would find an actor or an actress and really latch onto them. And typically actors that she found handsome. And George Clooney is one of those. So she would pick up every George Clooney movie she saw and watch them, and he's made a lot of stinkers, like, so she'd pick up like Intolerable Cruelty out of nowhere. And, so I remember seeing her have Burn After Reading.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because there's both of them are in very weird roles in this film. Brad Pitt's an idiot, like dumb, like really dumb, but he's so funny. And also, if somebody really loves Brad Pitt's pretty face, this movie's going to shock you on. And also, in general, I spoil talking about the films on this show. So,
sure. I mean, this is a 13-year-old movie. Yeah.
When he gets shot in the face was like one of the most shocking moments I think ever having a film experience. I'm just like,
yeah,
what just happened? And it's such a great scene because this might seem like a just silly movie, but the attention to detail that's in every Coen Brothers film is in this one as well.
Mm-hmm.
The amazing plants where John Malkovich is trying to alpha male George Clooney and make a comment about his gun, and him saying, oh, I've never drawn my gun before. And then a little bit later, him talking about, oh, it's all like body reflexes. And it like all that leading up, and that beautiful reaction shot of you see Brad Pitt's face. He looks over at the empty holster, looks back, that door opens, and then bam! And it's just like, and I have to say, George Clooney has the most amazing paranoid face out of like anybody in Hollywood. Like, who are you? Who do you work for? Is like, it's so interesting because George Clooney is such a mess in this movie, and he's such a like, he's involved with so many different women, and you don't know why he's with half of the women in this movie. It's like, why is anyone with Tilda Swinton's character in this movie?
Okay, yeah, like this is an interesting point to bring up because look, you could say, why is anybody with Tilda Swinton's character in this movie? Because she kind of seems like a hassle, right? some of the things that she's, I mean, like not as bad as could possibly be, but just seems like I don't know, especially like Clooney seems like such a caring individual still, and Tilda Swinton's playing rather empathetic because that's what the role calls for, you know. But yeah, even like just in terms of like just the women that he goes out with, like I could understand if it's just he goes out with everybody, but he goes out with Linda like at least three times that we see, and you know he goes out with another random lady like once, and
which,
you know, he
quick side note, just imagine you're some woman on a dating site and you show up to a blind date or whatever, and George Clooney's sitting there,
right? and like look, here's the deal, nothing against Frances McDormand, but like
it's the positivity, it's that attitude between the two of them, and because I think she's such a stark contrast to Tilda Swinton's character, because, and I quote from the movie, she's a cold-hearted bitch.
I could do that.
Which it's funny because she says the same exact thing about George Clooney's wife in the movie, which is such a funny thing. But like, it's so interesting.
I think that tracks, that she is the stark opposite to Tilda Swinton, and for that reason, that's why he continues to see her. Sure, yeah, all right, I'll buy that.
Until he thinks that she's a spy.
Yeah, like the last scene of the movie, second to last scene of the movie.
Which, like, taking some steps back here, because this film has some interesting aspects about it. Because one, this is actually the only film from Barton Fink to Hail Caesar not shot by Roger Deakins. Emmanuel Lubezki was the cinematographer on this, and I'm like, oh, well, you can't get Roger Deakins, so then you get the other greatest cinematographer in film to shoot your movie, which I don't remember if I looked that up before, but there is a stark difference in how this is shot from some Coen Brothers films, and I think it really pops up in the voyeuristic sequences in the film, with like the handheld camera and like those zoom ins, like with handheld cam and like shaky cam, because like, let's be real here, Deakins doesn't really do stuff like that. It's very crisp and it's very like controlled, and I think this works for this film.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know that I want Deakins on this film.
I think it really works the way that it is, because there's just a level of, like, the whole entire film's a level of paranoia from start to finish, because everybody's watching everybody. And it's so funny because throughout the whole entire film, everyone's so oblivious to it, except for Brad Pitt's character, who's a complete idiot. But there's that one scene where he's in his suit waiting outside the Cox residence, and he's sitting in the car, and he's like, he notices this one car is watching them, and he notices other car watching somebody. Like, he's so oblivious to like life that he's just kind of sitting there noticing all these strange things going on, and you're just like, how's he the only one noticing this?
Well, and you look at his reactions, because we already talked about how George Clooney reacts when you know, he starts to think that Linda Litzky's a spy. We see the way that John Malkovich reacts. He's just more so like, I'm gonna get aggressive and I'm gonna bully these punks. And we see the way that the Frances McDormand character Linda reacts, because she gets way paranoid and doesn't have any cool. But like the Brad Pitt character, he just like sees somebody watch him and still hops the fence. Like,
which, him trying to do that in a suit, and like it's so interesting, because it's like, I feel like this film really lives and dies on such a perfect cast, because Tilda Swinton is so great in the role that she's playing, because she plays very icy and distant and like commanding. And then like John Malkovich is like being the most John Malkovich I think Malkovich can be. And like he's so self-righteous about everything, from like, this is a crucifixion. And he's like, you're a Mormon. Next to you, we all have a drinking problem. And just like, everything about him is so condescending, and like on the one of the funniest scenes in the movie is the whole phone call in the middle of the night where Brad Pitt's like, is this Osborne Cox? Yes, this is Osborne Cox. Who the F are you? And just a good Samaritan. And just everything about it. And just the way that Frances McDormand gets so aggressive with Brad Pitt. It's like, where's the money?
Yeah.
He didn't give it to me.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. This movie lives and dies on the cast, and I really don't know any people that you can swap out, even the minor characters, because we've talked about the Tilda Swinton character and the Brad Pitt character, but like Clooney plays that paranoia so well. But we also need to believe somebody that is cool and suave, and what is Clooney if not cool and suave?
Exactly.
And even down to the the father from Step Brothers who plays
Richard Jenkins.
Richard Jenkins. Okay, I wanted to say Roger, but Richard Jenkins. He is perfect for this movie, and like it's not just like one or two people being perfect and one or two people needing to be perfect, but like I just don't know that I could see anybody else in these roles. Specifically, the Malkovich one is the one that's like you could tell they knew it was Malkovich from the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Which Richard Jenkins is so great. It's like what, and it's funny because I've watched this film probably like 6-7 times at this point over the course of time, and I don't know what was going on while I was watching it this time, but I just started like having some revelations about certain things, and like it's so interesting because like Richard Jenkins was a priest, Greek Orthodox, and he's so religious about hard bodies. And it's just like, he's just like, I don't want this happening. We don't condone this at hard bodies. And it's just so funny how he's always so like, everything's like, we don't condone this at hard bodies. All the way up to the point where he's getting confronted by, it's like you're in league with a moronic woman. And all the way up until the end, Richard Jenkins just wants to defend him until he's taking an axe to the head. Like what the hell? And we haven't talked about this aspect of the film, but like the government agent guys, like Simmons, just pops up. And I think that final scene is what's really going to tell if you bought into this movie or not.
Yeah.
Because him just being like, what did we learn from this Palmer?
Yeah, well, like, look, here's the thing. I was thinking about that at the end, and I love how the Coen brothers are acknowledging, like, look, we weren't going for a Best Picture winner, like maybe Best Original Screenplay, sure, or potentially like Best Supporting Actor or Best Supporting Actress, something like that. Frances McDormand is great in this movie. Doing the same thing she did in Fargo. I mean, not the same thing, obviously, but doing the similar thing that she did in Fargo, which she won an Oscar for. So. It's one of those that they're clearly were never going for like Best Picture, like greatest film of all time. They were going for, I want this to be somebody's favorite movie and one that somebody pops in just on a whim, like their feel good movie. And a lot of that shines through. And at that end scene, like it's the perfect ending, because it's that, like, what did we learn? And nothing, right? I mean, the response in the movie is, oh, we learned not to do it again. Well, what is it that we did? I don't know, but we don't do it again. And like the movie, this isn't trying to be the Shawshank Redemption. This isn't trying to be some 2001: A Space Odyssey, right? This isn't even trying to be the All the President's Men. It's just trying to be a fun little introduction to a indie film and foreign film class.
Yep. Well, and it's very accurate that the Coen brothers aren't going for home runs with all their films. Like, you can tell some of them are just like, they're there to have fun. And honestly, I'm having fun with them.
Sometimes. I like about 2/5 of the Ballad of Buster Scruggs. So
for me, like, out of the whole entire filmography of the Coens, which I've talked plenty on this show about how much I love the Coen brothers, seeing as I've like literally have done like 15 episodes now just talking about the Coen brothers. But like there's some of them that just don't hit as well. And some of them I think aren't good movies. A very few of them, lady killers.
I need a rewatch of that one.
It's a weird movie.
And I like weird though.
Well, there's things about that film that I enjoy. If you want to hear my thoughts about it,
yeah,
my episode about it. But like this film is funny and quirky and tense. Like I don't think there's considerable deeper meaning of this film because the film literally tells you at the end, like, and I think the Coen brothers' deepest, most through theme of all their films is this idea of life, what's its purpose, and why do things happen. And you can argue in some of the films that borderline is nihilistic, which No Country for Old Men might be a little bit.
Yeah.
But like you watch this and it's just like life is a string of crazy events that you'll never see coming. And there's plenty of those moments in this film. I did not see where this movie was going. And by the end, obviously, the film tells you, what do we learn from this? Just J.K. Simmons' reaction to where everybody is. It's like, oh, we have Farr in a holding cell. Whatever JFK, not JFK, whatever airport it is in D.C. And he's just like, and he was trying to board a flight to Venezuela. He's like, but we're not quite sure why. It's like, you don't know why? We don't have extradition. Like, so what should we do? Get him on the quickest flight to Venezuela.
He's running from something that we don't know. Like, it's probably not. Yeah, and like, look, I think that the J.K. Simmons character, like that arc, needs to be in this movie. That those like 3 like 45-second scenes need to be in it because it really kind of helps put things into perspective. I mean, the Coen brothers aren't trying to be Guy Ritchie, and they're not trying to have these metaphors. They're not, they're even with its nihilistic tone. It's not trying to be Forrest Gump, right? It's not trying to just be that, we're following the feather and we're following, this guy's story. And even part of that too, like it even goes farther, kind of going along with what you're talking about, how life is just a crazy string of events sometimes. With the J.K. Simmons character, we get to see, especially in that final scene where he's just like, all right, cool. So anything else? And there's the woman from the gym. Oh, right. Forgot about her. Like, just 4 different instances where like even like we know everything that happens as the viewer, but like even the CIA are just like, we're not sure why George Clooney's running. And we're not sure. Do they even mention the Brad Pitt character, the CIA guys?
So the first time we meet J.K. Simmons is when they're like, he apparently threw the body in the Chesapeake.
Oh, right.
Why? Yeah. Like, what did you like? Burn the body,
right?
Get rid of it.
So right, and so there's the woman at the gym thing, and they're like, well, he's gonna be going. Oh crap! Well, they're pretty sure he's not gonna make it. All right. Well, that sounds good. Like, there's so many things that even they're not sure with it. That definitely back your theory of, or not your theory, your explanation of what this movie really means, which is that sometimes life is just crazy and hectic. And, I think there's tons of movies like this, and these are some of my favorite kind of movies. Like, it's weird to compare this movie to Crazy Stupid Love, but this is, if you take that picnic scene and put it for an hour and a half, right?
Exactly. Well, and the interesting thing is, it's like a cue Frank Sinatra song. That's life. That's basically this movie. And
we don't talk about that movie anymore, or that song anymore.
It's like, you take a look at this film, and basically J.K. Simmons and this other CIA guy are basically like you and your best friend sitting at a diner talking about this movie afterwards. So what happened with this? Oh, I forgot about that one. Because they'd have just as much information about what's going on. Well, actually, the audience has more information about what's going on than they do. At least we've
Right.
seen all this going on.
Right.
We understand the motivations of all this, but we also understand from the outside looking in, this seems to be a whole big cluster cuss. Like,
well, and also that J.K. Simmons character being reported to, we never see the CIA guys interact with them. We never see them grab anybody off the street. We never see J.K. Simmons even start to get directly involved because we're to assume he's a higher up in all of CIA. So he's just trying to like put the pieces together. And look, from an outsider's perspective, if you only imagine the lawyer guy that's like, no, I work for these
Tuckman Marsh.
Yeah. You're Tuckman Marsh? No, I work for Tuckman Marsh. I'm serving you divorce papers. No, Tuckman Marsh hired me to serve you divorce. Or your wife hired Tuckman Marsh to hire me. It's. Imagine seeing this movie through his perspective. Like, how messed up is that guy?
Everyone's sleeping with everyone.
Yeah, that's also true.
And it's just like, it's so easy to make up these conjectures for them. It's like was Frances McDormand trying to get secrets from George Clooney? Or like, no, honestly, this whole entire movie is completely more benevolent than anything anyone could ever think that's what's going on. It's ridiculous. And it's just a fun time by the end because it's like, it all happens because, and there's just like some scenes in this film are so great, like that dinner party at the beginning where there's so much going on under the surface. And then you have like that one Asian character who's just like, well, I'm on the justice side of things. And he just keeps like throwing that in there because he feels completely out of his element in this awkward alpha mailing going back between John Malkovich and George Clooney. And like, it's so crazy with all the interactions, keeping track of everything, and it's just so fun, all these weird occurrences and interactions between all these characters. And honestly, if you just strap into this crazy roller coaster, it's going to be fun and you're going to enjoy it.
Well, and what's crazy is, I mean, we've talked a lot about how fun this movie is, but it's genuinely funny as well. Aside from the big moments and the big movements, like, especially Clooney's reaction to shooting Brad Pitt is hysterical and probably the biggest laugh I have in the whole movie. And like, this is a perfect example of like how this movie still manages to just do small stuff. Like, there's probably three big moments I can think of. My favorite moment, maybe even of this movie, is when Clooney gets mad when he's chopping the carrots, and then he leaves Tilda Swinton's house, but he has to go grab the purple cushion from upstairs, and that scene takes forever.
Well, it takes forever. He's stomping like a child, and the whole entire time you're just having this reaction shot of Tilda Swinton like listening to and he's just like. And just goes off like stomping up the stairs.
So there's that scene. There's the scene where he shows Frances McDormand the gift that he made for his wife, and she's like, "Oh, that's fascinating!" Like, no, that's fantastic. Like,
like, what movie did you watch? Are you watching where that's not the most shocking thing that you see in this movie? Like, second
Clerks 2. Clerks 2 is what you're watching.
Second to Brad Pitt getting shot in the face is a sex toy chair.
Yeah, handmade.
He's like, I saw this in a gentleman's magazine and they were selling it for like $3,500 or something. And it's just like, I'm a handyman. I can do this, like one trip to Home Depot and just like,
well,
when he put that seat back and he goes like, I'm like, what?
And like, there's no consequence why that scene needs to be in the movie, why that machine needs to exist. The only thing is he built it for his wife. It's clearly trying to show that he doesn't want to divorce her, that he wants to make things work. He wants for everything to be okay. He wants, to stay with her.
And she's cheating on him too.
Yeah, and like, look, I kind of, God, it's weird. Like, by the end of the movie, I want him to have a revelation and be a less adulterous husband and them to be together. But like, yeah, it's hard to feel bad for the guy. You know, he's cheating on her with multiple people, but there's also just a even throwaway lines, because like I just mentioned some of the funny things that are like integral to the plot, or at least seemingly so. You know, the chair does still have a big, I guess you could completely cut it, but
it's more of like an emotional payoff when
yeah,
like when he's trying to destroy it and it's just like boom, boom, boom. Like, it's a great laugh, but also it's that emotional payoff of him visualizing the pain he's feeling about his
right.
wife divorcing him and just trying to destroy it with a sledgehammer.
Well, and in a movie that we talked about, 96 minutes with credits, and being all the things that it is, even the scenes that the starting to scenes that aren't essential to the plot or what's going on, like, is jam packed with jokes. Because there's a scene where they're just trying to set up. All right, well, the priest character, Linda. Gosh, I can't remember anybody's names right now. But Brad Pitt, the Francis McDormand, and Step Brother's dad.
Yeah.
Are all they're just trying to establish that they're all at Hardbody's gym. Apparently, they can remember Hardbody's, but there's the beginning of that scene is Brad Pitt stretching some customer. And he's just like, I heard a pop in my ass, like.
So one of the other funny revelations that I had watching this again yesterday was I was so amused by myself making this joke watching this movie with my girlfriend, because when he's like, you know, I wasn't always just a manager at a gym. And my reaction was, yeah, you used to be a dinosaur. I couldn't resist.
A joke.
But my favorite, like one of my low-key favorite pieces of like a running gag in this film is every time George Clooney has sex, he just like comes out, I could use a run. And when Tilda Swinton drops him off for his run, this last fateful run.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't see how you have the energy. And he's just like, well, baby, if you want to go around the corner, I'll take you in the back. I mean, like in the back seat, not like, I'm just like, oh my God.
Well, gosh, and there's every little thing about this movie has to go the way that it does. And look, the Coen brothers are geniuses for this movie. This movie alone, we already know they're geniuses, but for this movie alone, because the tape in the Hardbody's bag of the secretary of the attorney, and then the smallest role in the movie, but the guy that finds it, especially at the end of the scene, Brett's like, you didn't see anything. That, no, I did. I found it on the floor.
And that's the thing. Coen brothers know how to make great small characters. And like even the lawyer guy, who's one of Papio Daniels' brain trust guys from Oh Brother Where Art Thou, he's like, you have to get ahead of it before the turtle draws his head and his
legs,
feet. Oh yeah. And just like just the littlest characters. But obviously we both can keep going on talking about how much we love this movie and laugh at this movie. But for all of you out there, if you haven't seen Burn After Reading, obviously we completely spoiled it for you, but it's still worth checking out because it's absolutely hilarious and just a fun time.
Can you imagine somebody listening to this having not seen Burn After Reading? They would be so confused.
Well, to be fair, I did say we are going to spoil this, and then immediately said Brad Pitt got shot in the face.
But I mean, like, we're not talking about anything like somebody listening is like, wait, hold on. How did we get from Brad Pitt shot in the face to George Clooney paranoia to everybody getting a divorce and a dildo chair? Like,
we are just preparing you for the film, because to be perfectly honest, it's just as random of occurrences somehow linked all together in the most unexpected ways.
I'm pretty sure at this point, of their career in 2008. The Coen brothers don't have to pitch anybody anything. They just have to be like, we want to make a movie, and a studio is just like, and I feel like that's just the way it goes. But could you imagine like somebody coming and pitching this movie to you? Like, hey, you want to finance this? Oh, cool. And then all these things happen. It's like, well, what's the message? No message.
On page 40, what's with this chair? Does he be in the movie? It's an integral part of the plot. I'm like,
is there anything in this movie that doesn't come back?
That's the thing. Everything is so. This is a film full of plants. Yeah. Everything is planted, and then it all comes popping back some point into the film.
Because even the smallest things, like Frances McDormand going to the movie to see the person and get their sense of humor, even that is brought back. Like every little thing in this movie matters.
Well, even that guy comes back just to compound George Clooney's paranoia, because he's staring. He's obviously, and here's the thing. You know how many of the issues in this movie would have been solved with some communication? Like Frances McDormand could have easily just said, honestly, it's some guy that I went on a date with. Instead, George Clooney's sitting there like, is he a government agent? Why is he staring at me? It's just like, could have solved so many different things by just talking.
Well, and look, Clooney's not wrong, right? Because the nervous divorce attorney has been following him. Like that's definitely been a thing that's been happening. So he's right to be paranoid, but at the end, the CIA knows what he's up to. They know he's doing some shady stuff. They're not sure what. Like, I totally believe that the photographer and the runner and the other person on a bench kind of looking that way, like, totally could be at least one of those people could be keeping an eye on him. And I think that's true, based off of the fact that they know where he is, and they are able to at least follow him. Well, I think they said they pick him up at the airport because they had him on a watch list. But like, if the CIA has you on a watch list and you live in Washington D.C., like, you are just not getting out of their sight.
Yep.
So he's right. He is being watched.
They are being watched, and at that point, I'm pretty sure everybody in this movie was being watched. Like, all the players at that point, by the end of the movie, the CIA was watching them. But so this was a lot of fun talking about Burn After Reading. This is a film full of laughs, quirky characters, great performances, and tons of details that just keep paying off and paying off. Now, shifting gears into the final segment of the show, which is my Q&A section, I just wanted to bring up, like, for you, Aaron, and I'll talk a little bit about this too, is like, what was some of the best and worst aspects of this year's Oscar ceremony?
Oh, I have thoughts. Let's start with the best. I'll go with just the things that I think are done really well. I love the intimate feel of how the Oscars were. As opposed to a large auditorium that's mostly dark. Every now and then you get close-ups of famous people who typically have nothing to do with anything that's on the show. Every now and then you get like a random Harrison Ford. Like, I loved the intimate feel. Everybody in that room was there with a purpose. I'm not trying to say that, not a bunch of, I'm not saying that Harrison Ford shouldn't be invited to the Oscars. I guess he did show up, but
yeah, he did show up at this one, which that was an interesting part of the show.
But I don't like. I like how it's well lit. You can see everybody. This looks like we're just getting to view like almost like an office party, right? I love that feel to it. The thing I admire most about this show was how instead of showing the real clips, we got a chance to hear from different entertainers, different perspectives of the people who worked on the film, especially when it's about cinematography and editing and costume and hairstyling and all that. I love, instead of showing me the clips of the movie, right? If you want to show me a clip or a still or something like that, like, that's fine. But hearing the biographies of these people, Regina King being the first presenter and getting to talk about the people that did the costume and makeup, I didn't know I needed that in my life. But I really loved that. Unfortunately, just dropped that as soon as they got to, the second half of the show. Like, instead of showing me the highlight reels for the actors clips, which they didn't, but they literally just said the names and gave an announcement. Look, have your host. So in that case, it was Joaquin Phoenix and Renee Zellweger. Have them walk around and and here's this person who is just brilliant in this movie, and to think of where you've come from here. And look, then here's the whole other thing. Then you get your Boseman story still, right? Because as the Oscars stand now, there is no Chadwick Boseman recognition other than the 2.5 seconds that, at less than that, everybody got half a second on the in memoriam. But you get that. But if you get the chance for Joaquin Phoenix to walk around and talk to the person that he's in a placeholder. Now, I know that not everybody's there, but at least have them talk about the person, not necessarily next to them. I think all that stuff was great. I think a lot of the awards are given rightly so, and I firmly disagree with some of them. But I'll stop there. I feel like I've talked for a hot second.
I guess some of the positives for me, at least the first half of the show felt like it was paced so well. And I'm just like, oh my God, is this show going to actually end in 2.5 hours? Because that would be lovely for a change of pace.
I don't mind a long show as long as the ad breaks are short.
I think that's always a tricky thing is for me personally, I'm not a fan of gags and host activities and stuff like that. I'd rather, if you're going to spend extra time during the show, make it about the movies and stuff like that. I don't need a karaoke or Glenn Close shaking it on national television.
Yeah. I also liked the Questlove and Lil Rel how he sparked. It felt like a late night talk show, but it broke up what has typically been a serious, prestigious thing, and we wouldn't have got Glenn Close doing the butt if not.
At that point, because it's to be honest, the second half of the show really lost me. And I'll get into points like that, but I do want to stay positive for a bit. I thought that a lot of the winners throughout the night were very deserving. They might not have been the ones that I wanted to win, but I thought they were deserving. And I also appreciated that more intimate kind of feel. Because you're right. Do I need to have Leo just chilling there every year if he's not actually nominated for anything? No, but do I need to sometimes it's fun watching Chris Evans make fun of Henry Cavill for eating Girl Scout cookies in the middle of the presentation. But is that necessarily needed? No. If they're not nominated for anything, it's okay. And I thought that they did, for the most part, their best with this situation. Things like the Bong Joon-ho thing, loved it. Him doing the introduction for the directors and him doing a teleportation act. Obviously, I'm pretty sure he just ran behind the camera to get to the other side, but it was some good filmmaking in that way. But in general, I was happy with most of the winners. I will talk about the one that made me really irrationally angry, but I'm going to let you talk about some of the things you didn't like most about the show.
Okay, here I made a long Facebook list. I gave 11 points about the Oscars, and I'll skip over some of the things. And also, I want to give one more positive, maybe some others as we get along here. But Chloe Zhao winning Best Director is both the correct choice, as well as a outstanding achievement for the representation of colored people and women in the industry. I don't think that's why she was picked, but I do think that it is an outstanding achievement and towards progress. So that's
Kevin
definitely
Feige
worth saying.
Was very happy because now he could plaster from Academy Award-winning director Chloe Zhao Eternals.
Academy Award-winning director, cinematographer, editor, and Best Picture winner.
Well,
Chloe Zhao.
It didn't win cinematography.
Oh no, Mank did.
That was one of the shocking ones to me. That
I think I voted Mank, but Nomadland should have gotten that.
Which I'm not going to argue against the cinematography of like this old school black and white film because it looked great.
Yeah.
I could have used more, not just Gary Oldman laying in a bed, but we won't talk too much about Mank.
Yeah, so let's see. Keep on going down my list. Look, it's really hard to be mad at Hopkins winning for The Father because he's excellent. It's arguably a career best. I don't know. I still think that Silence of the Lambs is probably his best performance. It's hard to argue, but that is Chadwick's Oscar. And frankly, I might have even given it to Riz Ahmed before I would have given it to Hopkins, but I'm not the Academy, and I don't. Maybe it's just everything was so overhyped when I finally did see The Father. I was like, this is really good, but I don't know. I would take it for editing, and that would have been the one thing it would have won, for sure.
Honestly, I thought that was going to be the only thing that it would have won for, because that editing was great.
Well, you were in for a surprise then.
Yes, it sure was.
Let's see.
Too.
It is a travesty that Trial of Chicago 7 walked home empty-handed. I don't know which ones I would have given. All right, so I'm biased. And as much as I love Promising Young Woman, I mean, Sorkin just has a way with screenplays. And it's hard to be mad at Promising Young Woman winning, but Trial of Chicago 7 is outstanding. Personally, I would have loved to see Sacha Baron Cohen take home the Oscar. I think he's tremendous as Abby Hoffman. It's really hard to say Daniel Kaluuya didn't deserve that, but it's easy to say Daniel Kaluuya and or Lakeith Stanfield did not belong in supporting actor category. So then you're dealing with, well, all right, well, what about Leslie Odom Jr. and is he more deserving than Sacha Baron Cohen? And
all I have to say is, don't you dare take away the spotlight from lead actor Jesse Plemons from Judas and the Black Messiah. And I'm never gonna let that joke go because it was so stupid. Like,
sure.
This whole situation was so stupid.
Let's see. Films that were underrepresented in nominations was One Night in Miami, Malcolm and Marie. 0 nominations for Malcolm and Marie. Only 2 for One Night in Miami. Da 5 Bloods, 1 nomination. Palm Springs, big fat 0. And another film that I'll talk about in a hot second, Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always, 0 nominations. Those are the far underrepresented ones, as well as I think there's some good documentaries out there that should have got some attention, like Robin's Wish. Let's see.
We'll certainly be talking about documentary shortly.
Okay, I promise. I only have like 2 or 3 more notes.
Okay.
I think Frances McDormand is great in Nomadland, but that should have been Carey Mulligan's Oscar or Olivia Colman's Oscar before it was Frances McDormand's. Not because she's already a 2-time winner, but because those are better performances.
Would you have changed Olivia Colman from supporting to lead?
Oh, sorry, not Colman. Carey Mulligan. Gosh, who was the other nominees in that one?
Kirby.
Vanessa Kirby.
It was God damn, Viola.
Are you sure Olivia Colman wasn't?
Olivia Colman was Best Supporting Actress.
Oh gosh, I messed up. So Carey Mulligan, Frances McDormand, Vanessa Kirby,
Viola Davis, Andra Day.
Okay. Yep. Well, Olivia Colman's great. That should have been Carey Mulligan's Oscar. My bad. I didn't do my research enough.
I put Olivia Colman as winning for Best Supporting Actress, but that didn't happen either. So, which I was mad about that.
No, it's hard to be mad about, but I would have taken Olivia Colman before I would have taken the grandmother from Minari, who is the best part of that movie. Let's see. I have. Gosh. All right, here we go. 4 more. Number 1 is that Another Round is absolutely deserving of that award. And Thomas Vinterberg gave the best speech of the night. It's really worth looking up. So best speech from the night came from the international feature. I love his heart behind this movie and how he turned his daughter's death into a story of celebration and joy. I think it's I want to interview with this guy. I want to grab a beer with him and just chat with him about beer and other things. I'll go off with a less hot take, and that is that look, Nomadland's a great movie, technically, but it's just not the best picture. I would have gone with Promising a Woman or Trial of Chicago 7, probably in that order, even though I like Trial of Chicago 7 more. So, but honestly, I think all 8 of those movies were pretty excellent. It'd be hard to be mad at any of them walking away with it, but to me, Promising a Woman is the best picture winner in my heart as of what is this, May 2nd, 2021.
Yep.
And here we go, last two. The Fight for You is an excellent song. I really love that song, but the fact that Speak Now did not win the Oscar is just as much as a travesty as Chadwick Boseman not winning for Best Actor. People should be just as outraged about that. Holy cow, Speak Now is an excellent song and should have won. And the very last thing is, in the end, the Oscars are just arbitrary awards and have been agreed to not be the right choice year after year, and this year will be no different. The Academy is not the end all be all, and frankly, I would rather spend my time and energy on a movie that a friend like you recommends to me than something that won an Academy Award. And so that's where Never Ride Sometimes Always is coming back, because zero representation at the Oscar. The only reason I saw that movie and was aware of that movie is because you came on SiftPop Writers Room and was like, you got to check out this amazing movie. And it's great. And performances are great. And the screenplay is great. And look, the Oscars are arbitrary, but if it's going to be the universal standards for the pinnacle award show, I don't know. I like Aaron Dicer's philosophies. Like, they can't be about competition; they have to be about celebration. That's how we change this. Boseman versus Hopkins. It's now just, here's 5 amazing actors. So,
well,
it's impossible to do that.
Well, and honestly, one of the biggest, well, I guess I'll start with the elephant in the room. My God, the end of that show.
Yeah.
Because instead of talking about the amazing performances of Chadwick Boseman and Anthony Hopkins, we're talking about what a shit show it was at the end of the show when, one, it was a perfect storm. Because one, Joaquin Phoenix is not the most socially comfortable person, and they put him in a really awkward position.
Yes.
And him reading off those nominees, and I was sitting there, I was ready to get emotional. And then they said Anthony Hopkins, and I'm like, who I wanted to win, mind you, because his performance devastated me. And I love The Father. And I'm just like, wait, what now? I sat there, I'm like, Anthony Hopkins isn't there. And I'm like, and then Joaquin Phoenix is basically like, and the Academy will accept this award for Anthony Hopkins. And it cuts to Questlove and more or less Porky Pigs it out. Like, that's all, folks. And it's just like, what was that? And for me, philosophically, there should be no other award at the end of the show besides Best Picture.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because none of those awards are bigger than the film.
Yes.
No single part of the film is bigger than the film. What the hell were they think? Well, obviously they were trying to potentially play off of and manipulate an emotional situation when they didn't even know who actually won. Why would you make that decision?
I have two, I promise I'll keep that brief, 2 comments on the whole Anthony Hopkins winning thing. Number one, you're right, Best Picture should be the last. And the in memoriam being right before when they announced Best Picture would have been just as nice of a transition if Boseman would have won at that. At least he's represented there.
Yeah.
That is just as good of a transition, and would have. Look, if he didn't win, then people would have been talking about it over the lead actress and the Best Picture. But it wouldn't have been seen as a colossal failure like it was. The second thing is reportedly Anthony Hopkins wanted to send in a video, but Soderbergh said he wanted no Zoom aspect ratio. He wanted to completely eliminate any awareness of COVID-19 being a part of the presentation. And I applaud and respect him for that. And he said that Anthony Hopkins didn't travel to the site that they had set up in Dublin and Paris. That's on you. Send out somebody to Hopkins' house. That's not Anthony Hopkins' fault that he wasn't featured. It is entirely Soderbergh's fault. Send your crew to his house. He's a mid-80s man in a pandemic.
So what I didn't get was there were other people that weren't that, like, I understand where like Gary Oldman was, Olivia Colman was an actual theater in London.
Yep.
I get that. But what the hell were the other things where they had some of the nominees like standing outside in front of a camera?
They had sites set up throughout the globe and scheduled times for nominees to record an acceptance speech. And they set it up in Paris and in Dublin were the two closest ones to Anthony Hopkins. I think Dublin. I could be wrong. But he lives in Wales. No, maybe London. Maybe Paris and London. But he lives in Wales. And there's a pandemic and he's older. So I don't begrudge him at all for not going. It is Soderbergh's responsibility to send people to his estate.
Also, it was funny to find out he was actually asleep at that point, which who could blame him? Because, like, how far ahead is Wales in terms of time?
When he won, it was 3:30 in the morning.
He's 83 years old.
Yeah.
Like,
yep.
Logistically, that's not going to work.
Look, how long have we known about the nominees? And even then, like, everybody knew Hopkins was going to get nominated before they officially announced it. So you have time to assemble your crew to get it over there if you really care about these things. And especially if you're going to end the show where you're I hesitate saying underdog or surprise winner, right? Because he wasn't who everybody thought, but no way was an underdog. Especially when it was such a big chance that he was going. If it's something like Steven Yeun, who is fine, but in my opinion, probably was never going to win and is a weak link in that category to me. I understand and I get that if that's a true underdog, but like everybody knew it was going to one of the two.
Yeah. So, well, and I did really appreciate his video that he made the next day because, like, it's not long, and at least he acknowledged Chadwick Boseman, but like I wasn't expecting a whole lot from the video. And you know what's sad was, like, my first reaction was, of course, Anthony Hopkins is not there. He wasn't there last year when he was nominated either. Mm-hmm. And that was honestly my first reaction. But knowing now why he wasn't there, that kind of upset me. But you have thoughts. So thoughts.
I think his acceptance video was fine. It was absolutely nothing of substance. And if that's what he was going to give, it would have been just as anticlimactic. I appreciate how he acknowledges Chadwick Boseman. At the same time, I feel like I don't know, like, look, Riz Ahmed could have totally taken that award as well. So I don't fully understand, the only other person he mentions is Boseman, and I understand why he mentions him. But Riz Ahmed, Steven Yeun, and Gary Oldman were not bad, pretty great actually. So I don't know, maybe some acknowledgement towards Riz. Riz is just getting the crap end of the stick here because he gave a potentially career best performance, and nobody is talking about him because people can't stop talking about Hopkins Boseman.
I remember watching Sound of Metal and being like, he's getting nominated for Best Actor. Like, 100%. No question in my mind.
Yeah. I don't know. It just felt like a thanks, respect to the Boseman family. Thanks. Bye. And it was like, look, if that would have been your pre-recorded or if that would have been your showing up to this place and do this at this time, fine. But like, you've won it. You found out. In the first thing you woke up, like, take your time, release a video later that day, make it an actual video that's worth watching. I don't know. I appreciate that he did one, as opposed to just left it.
So besides that, so I'm going to quote myself before they announced the nominees for Best Documentary. I turned to my two friends, Matt and Alex, who were there with me, and my girlfriend, Jess. I'm like, if my octopus teacher wins Best Documentary Feature, I'm going to flip a shit. And what happened?
My octopus
flipped a shit. Because are you kidding me?
I haven't seen it.
It's, if I remember, even when I gave it was like a 3, maybe 3.5 stars out of 5 on my letterbox, because I remember watching this film. I'm like, it was fine. And this dude has a weird relationship with his octopus. Like, it's weird. He enjoys this octopus's company way too much.
Yeah.
And then watching when that won, which, by the way, I was so angry when they even announced the nominees, because I know you agree with me. They did not properly represent the best documentary features from last year. Like, I could literally name 20 documentaries from last year that are better than My Octopus Teacher, and that just made me so mad.
Yeah, I'd have gone Robin's Wish, Totally Under Control, Boy State, the Class Action Park, which probably shouldn't be nominated, but I love that one, and Showbiz Kids.
It was a better documentary than My Octopus Teacher.
It's silly, but it entertained the crap out of me. So,
well, and like A Feels Good Man was another one that like hit me hard when I watched that. I'm just like, there's a lot of different documentaries that were more interesting, more ambitious, more affecting, just generally. And I'm just like, are you kidding me? And also, one thing about the show in general, which many people for years have been complaining, why do we have to show all the best song performances on this show?
I like it.
And then they took it off, and then I saw people complaining on Twitter, why'd they take all the songs out? And I'm like, because all of you complained about it. It just reminded me of a Curb Your Enthusiasm skit. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've ever watched the show.
Yeah, I love Curb Your Enthusiasm.
You remember the first season where he goes to the doctor's office, he lets him in front of him, and she gets let in before him. He's like, but I had an appointment. My appointment was before her.
Yep.
And then the whole thing, and he comes back the next time, shows up early. They're like, oh, we changed the rules. Like, why would you listen to one man's opinion and just change your rules like that? That's exactly how I felt.
Yeah, it's people want to be offended about something, about something about everything, not just one particular thing. I like the performances scattered throughout. I think it helps break up the show a little bit, and I love seeing the performers play. And maybe this is why I know they played them all during the pre-show, and maybe COVID had an impact on it. You know, maybe that was the thing, but I don't know. They still had a full band there, right? Like the Roots was still there. So I think, I don't know. I didn't get to watch too much of the Oscars, but I think maybe people might be more outraged with One Night in Miami losing, if they would have heard the song.
Which there's so right off the top of my head, there are if I thought about the top 5 most cathartic endings of movies of 2020, One Night in Miami and that song is hitting me hard.
Perfect.
And it's not quite like how cathartic it felt to watch Mads Mikkelsen dance at the end of another round, but that song hit hard. And I'm just like, holy crap.
Well, and Fight for You is a totally good song that really captures the era that they're in, and is a great great part of a tribute to Fred Hampton. One Night in Miami is a perfect culmination of this movie and the civil rights movement, especially through I'm blanking on the guy's name because I was unfamiliar with him before the movie. Sam Cooke.
Yep.
Is a brilliant tribute to Sam Cooke's transformation throughout the movie. as well as just the movie in general. It is, and the civil rights era in general. It is literally the perfect um, uh, pairing of a song and a movie, and always will give it extra mad props if it's not just played over the credits, but it's actually part of the movie.
Yeah, that.
But like, look, if a song is good enough, I'll take it in over the credits. But I don't see that movie ending the same way without that song, at least the same impact.
I guess with my last two thoughts, one, look at Frances McDormand and her 3 Oscars now. She's on DDL level. And seeing Joel Cohen there with her made me happy as a Coen Brothers fan, coming full circle on their show. But who's ready for Frances McDormand to get nominated again next year with Lady Macbeth? Because she's playing Lady Macbeth in the Coens' new Macbeth film.
All right. I struggle with this conversation. Is there a point where is there a point that we stop either awarding people who have won so many times? Is there a point that we stop awarding Meryl Streep?
That's a nice example.
Like, I want to say no. All of my heart wants to say no, but all of my heart also wants to say Hopkins got a Best Actor Oscar already, and this is like Boseman literally will not have another chance. Yeah. I feel like here's how we fix this. To me, if you get 3 nominations, you get a honorary award. So if you've been nominated for 3 performances, or if you've been nominated for Best Director 3 times, you get an honorary. Hey, you're good. Or if you really want to make it tougher to make it a 5, right? If you've got 5 nominations and still haven't won because there's been some, if you're that Riz Ahmed this year, but there's a Hopkins and a Boseman, look, you deserve this. You really deserve this.
The Glenn Closes, the Peter O'Tooles, the Richard Burtons of the world, who are just like, no Oscar.
And then I also feel like then I'm not as concerned about, look, at this point, the only way Chadwick Boseman is getting an Oscar is a Lifetime Achievement Award, which, by the way, he should already have for Jackie Robinson, Thurgood Marshall, James Brown, and Black Panther. That is more than enough to get him a Lifetime Achievement Award. Black Panther alone is enough to get him a Lifetime Achievement Award, mostly because of the stuff they did outside the movie.
I think it really depends on how you view the Oscars. And it's interesting what you brought it up, what Dicer said, because I feel like, Aaron, what you're arguing for right now is a celebration.
Yeah.
Of if it's a real competition, there shouldn't be limits.
Well, and I mentioned that to Aaron, and he said, okay, but then it means a little less. But like, does it? Does it actually?
Well, because it's like, what are you going to say? The New York Yankees, you won 27 World Series. Sorry, you can't win any more World Series here.
Right. I don't want to stop awarding people for the right performances, but Gary Oldman would he have won The Darkest Hour if not this was finally his gimme Oscar? Would Leo have won? If this wasn't finally his. Maybe he's pretty great in The Revenant, but Django Unchained should have been his.
For me, I want it to be a competition, and I also want to stop seeing people just getting Oscars because they're owed it.
Yes.
Who should have won that Oscar instead of Gary Oldman? Honestly, Daniel Day-Lewis. Because, my God, his performance in Phantom Thread, the amount of detail he put into that performance. And, honestly, Daniel Kaluuya deserved it more than Gary Oldman. Because rewatching every time I watch Get Out again, emotionally devastates me. The performance Daniel Kaluuya gives. So, I don't like. You could go back to the most egregious one when Art Carney won back in the 70s, beating like Gene Hackman, Al Pacino, and
Yeah.
like,
This was The Godfather 2 in the conversation year. Yeah.
stupid.
Yeah.
Like, who is ever talking about Harry and Tonto ever again? But like that happens. John Wayne won for True Grit.
Mm-hmm. Well, and here's the problem with what we're talking about is that if it's constantly we really need to give this person, he deserves it, we are constantly going to be awarding old white dudes, right? Like we're or maybe not even white, like we're constantly going to be rewarding old people because let's just say hypothetically, Hopkins didn't win for Silence of the Lambs, right?
Mm-hmm.
He would have absolutely been the front runner because we all know, look, Boseman's got that detached, but Hopkins is due, right? We all knew it when Gary Oldman won for Darkest Hour, right? There are these essentially lifetime achievement awards given as best performance of the year, and frankly, I want to change how we do it. I want to stop doing performance of the year, and I want to go performer of the year. Because we talked about on the Oscars in review last year, I think should have absolutely gone to Adam Driver for Marriage Story. But if you take it to performer of the year and you add in Rise of Skywalker, which he's the best part of that movie, and The Report, which again, he's the only good part of that movie, the only non-boring part of that movie, at least. No doubt in my mind, Adam Driver wins. But then probably people are tampering, like, studios would just hold on movies and release 5 Leo movies in a year to get him that Oscar fund. So like that causes problems. But
Michael Stuhlbarg would have definitely won a Best Supporting Actor Oscar for the year where he had like 5 supporting performances released in one year.
And how about last year with Florence Pugh for Midsommar and Little Women? And I think there was another one that she was in.
Fighting with My Family.
Okay, yeah, that's the other one. And like, look, we both said Scarlett Johansson for Marriage Story and Jojo Rabbit, but like, it's a tougher choice, and I think it's a more all-encompassing choice.
That's an interesting perspective. I appreciate that because there's definitely I'm pretty sure there's times in the past where an actor was nominated for Best Actor for multiple films at once, but this was like old, like back in like the 40s, 50s, like 30s,
when there was like 7 working actors.
Yeah, and there's like not that many like awards caliber films coming out, which now there's like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of films coming out every year. They have to really think about things because especially after how bad the ratings were this year, something's going to change.
All right, so that was the thing I was going to ask you. But we could save it if you have more thoughts because I know you.
My last thought is I just wanted to bring up Best Animated Feature.
Okay.
I love Soul. I wish Soul didn't win, but I'm just happy that Wolfwalkers and the Shaun the Sheep movie Farmageddon got some love at the Oscars this year. Specifically Shaun the Sheep, because I did not expect that to get nominated. I thought The Croods was getting that last spot.
And I am also happy that Onward got a nomination because somehow Pixar movie is underrated.
Somehow, apparently. But yeah, so that was my last thought. But what were you going to bring up?
All right. What do we learn from this year? The J.K. Simmons question. What did we learn from this? What do we learn from this, and what do we learn to either not do or do in the future?
I think the Oscars need to. So not only do the Oscars need to figure out what the awards mean, if it's a celebration or a competition, they also need to know what the show means. Because are you putting on a show or an award ceremony? Because if it's an award ceremony, this thing should be an hour and a half, if that. Get through things, do your thing, and wrap up.
Sure.
If it's going to be a show, you better make it a show.
Yeah.
Because they need to figure out how to, if they really think that this is going to be about ratings, because like if that's what this is, if this is what the Academy really cares about is ratings, they need to make this a better show. because they need to do something big and interesting and compelling, because right now, not a whole lot of people like myself are going to sit through 3.5 hours of this whole entire show like I did. Like, by the end, I was the only one in front of my TV at the end. I was so upset because I'm like, I need to talk to somebody about this.
Could have just hopped on this Oscars live feed. We were talking about it.
I'm just like, what? But that's the thing. The ratings were what, 9 million people? Yeah. And like 6 years ago, it was like 45 million people watching the Oscars. It's just like, I teach statistics. Like, that's not a great trend.
Look, there's also the fact that this is in April and as opposed to February, March, like late April too. And there's also the fact that there's a lot of movies this year that nobody's, aside from us, have heard of. You know, like people weren't watching Nomadland, right? Normal people. You know, my wife, no way she would have ever heard of Nomadland. She only hears about movies because I talk about them, or like she'll see an ad on YouTube. And you know what's not getting advertised? Nomadland. Because they know that there's enough people talking about it in film, and they knew they were going to win a ton of Oscars. So I just I have so many thoughts on how we can change the Oscars. First of all, we got to add a best voice acting and or motion capture if we're not going to nominate Andy Serkis for just actor in general. That we have to add. I think you can combo voice acting and motion capture, and that would do fine.
Speaking of Lifetime Achievement Awards,
he's overdue.
Like, I'm assuming he's going to get it when his career's actually over, because he's still.
But why wait? Why wait between Gollum and King Kong and Caesar? He's by far got it.
Getting his best one. Snoke, come on.
Look, I like Snoke.
He was intimidating.
He
got cut.
He didn't do jack for Snoke. But anyway, the I think we just have to learn. It's what you said. It's we have to figure out what these awards are. They need to set a hard and fast rule on some things, like best picture is always last. And I think it's more so driving away from the idea of finally. We talked about it. I like Shape of Water. I'm not mad about it winning Best Picture, but look, Mad Max Fury Road should have won Best Picture that year.
Spotlight beat Mad Max Fury Road.
Oh, dang it. What's the one that was it The Revenant that beat Mad Max? It was The Revenant.
Spotlight beat Mad Max for Best
Picture. Oh, that was the same year. Jeez. Got it. Look, I love Spotlight. Was 27. I like Spotlight.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Oh, you know what? 2017 was Blade Runner 2049, which wasn't even nominated. That was by far the best picture of the year.
Which was BS.
And
like the one positive thing is finally won Deakins an Oscar.
Yeah. Well, and I'll take that. Gosling should have been nominated. Anyway. What? Yeah, again, you change that actor. You change that actor to performer, and you look at 2016 Gosling, and he's got La La Land and The Nice Guys, 2 movies in my top 5 of all time. Ooh, I love him.
Aaron's gonna wind up
doing I think that
podcast on SiftPop on how to fix the Oscars, and if that happens,
look, I
want in on it.
Look, I don't have the answers on how to fix it. All I know is there are problems, and the Academy has made some great strides, such as expanding in terms of diversity and in terms of number to the amount of voters.
They should just make
really respect
films. I think they should do that instead of the instead of this really complicated math problem. That everybody has to be like, there's a complicated math problem. That's why we don't have 10 nominees this year. And everybody be like,
yeah, how about
the other 2? It's just like, because mathematically they didn't qualify.
Well, and they did change that starting next year. It will be the top 10.
will it?
votes. It will be. Yep. They changed
Look
the
at
rules for
that.
that.
Are we still getting our
will be
popular
10.
movie Oscar?
I hope not. Well, but like, that's a good question. All right, because Mad Max Fury Road would have won the popular one. Black Panther would have won the popular one, right? Like, but is there a way that we can honor something like Nomadland and Mank that are made great, but are, to me, lacking in ways that Promising Young Woman and Trial of Chicago 7 can fulfill? So is there a way that we can differentiate best film versus best made film? At least a little bit better, right? And like maybe that falls on best director and best screenplay. I don't know. I don't want the Oscars to become best MTV Movie Awards, but
I don't want popular movie because that's condescending to the Mad Max.
Sure,
should be like, you're the best mainstream movie. It's like, this movie was amazing no matter what measure you put up to it, and
they would have to title it differently. But can we? I don't know. Somehow acknowledge things a little bit differently, and make sure everybody is clear on what they're doing and how they're doing it. I think, like I said, I don't have the answers, and this is one. I don't know. Like, I'm not middle aged. I guess I am young, which we want young. But like, this is one white guy's opinion on what we should do. Like, there's a lot of white guys that have opinions on what they should do, and there's problems. And I have ideas, but I don't know. I'm not going to go ahead and say I have the right ideas.
That is fair. It would be interesting if they enforced like you have to prove that you've seen all the films nominated to vote on the categories.
That would be very interesting. I don't know that that's as much of a problem. I don't think there are people randomly blindly picking Nomadland out there because they hadn't seen it. And if there is
other films that have won because of things or performances because of that.
Sure, but like I don't know. I don't feel like that's as much of a problem now. But I don't know. I feel like, especially in the actor and actress category, that's something that can be rectified.
They should come up with a hard set rule about actor versus supporting actor.
They should definitely. That's a start. How about that? Well, that's a start.
Because that's been a problem for a long time.
And they can listen to the rest of the podcast on a lot of other things that I've suggested. But
in the end, even not counting this year, ratings cut in half.
Yeah.
Over 5 years. Y'all need to figure out something.
I like the presentation this year. I hope they go more in this intimate route. And hopefully next year, when it's back in February and it's back past the pandemic and there's, movies in theaters again.
And Dune is there to win all of the Oscars.
and everybody knows that Chadwick Boseman's going to get a Lifetime Achievement Oscar. Or humanitarian Oscar, one of them.
Something.
Yeah, something. I mentioned this Oscars, I can't remember where, but we were talking about like movies that just totally sweep lots of stuff. They're like, when's the next time we will see a Return of the King? I said, with the way things are going, potentially Dune. Like, I'm sure there's going to be some things that come out of the water, but like a lot of things being pushed back, a lot of things that had post-production trouble postponed because of COVID-19, filming postponed. Dune's got a wide open window to win a lot of things.
Could be. And it'll be very interesting because I was actually what was it? IndieWire had a top 25 films to look out for next year's Oscars. French Dispatch, Wes Anderson. You never know. But Dune, though, and West Side Story.
Yeah.
Spielberg.
Yeah, and that trailer looks awesome. But In the Heights, I'm way more looking forward to that one.
Can Dune beat two musicals? Tune in February to see what wins.
Well, and a Fast and Furious movie.
Which a Fast and Furious movie with no Rock or Jason Statham, as I stated at the beginning of the show, I am not interested now. So, except for maybe John Cena. I'm being facetious.
I don't know how this could happen, but every part of me wants Derek DelGuaggio's in and of itself to win everything. I don't know how you do that, but I want that in my life.
Fast 9 wins Best Picture. You heard it here first, folks. John Cena, Best Supporting Actor.
Look, I'd give it over Cherry.
Oh my. But
or Stowaway.
We wound up talking about the Oscars more than we talked about Burn After Reading on this episode, but go watch Burn After Reading.
Yeah.
But wrapping things up, Aaron, shamelessly plug whatever you'd like to shamelessly plug.
Yeah, if you want to hear more thoughts about a lot more things, go to SiftPop Writer's Room. That'll be available on your podcast players, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen. Not YouTube, but wherever you listen. SiftPop Writer's Room. Shane's on there semi regularly. Lots of various people on there semi regularly. And you can follow me on Twitter at Schweitzer.
Awesome. Thank you, Aaron, for coming on and chatting Guy Ritchie, Burn After Reading, and a lot about the Oscars. But thank all of you for sitting tight and listening to all we had to say today on Welcome to the Wasteland. But thank you, as always, for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.